In this video, I'm covering one of the most underrated films in history, The Voices, and why the main character Jerry is so tragically perfect. Hey there, family members, you have McGann, and welcome to the Fangirl, a show where I fall in love with the charm of a serial killer in a very worrisome way. If you haven't seen The Voices, it's a film starring the epic Ryan Reynolds as a mentally ill individual who ends up killing 3 women, partially because his cat told him to. Yes, the cat told him to, like a devil on his shoulder, and his dog acts like the angel on the other side of his shoulder, and the 3 women he kills ends up as these happily decapitated talking heads. This is a really hard movie to try and label because it's not quite comedic or horror or thriller, and I don't even think that dark comedy would cover it because there's really not that much humor in the plot. It's kind of like this depressing study on what it can be like for some mentally ill people. Did I emphasize that enough that not all mentally ill people fit into this one category? No? Not good enough? Alright, well, it's the internet, what can I expect? But Jerry is such a fascinating character to pick apart. He's so gosh darn charming, like some boy next door who doesn't realize he's cute. Here we have this quiet guy who's a great worker at his factory job with Milton Fixtures and Faucets International, but we're immediately made to feel uneasy about Jerry because his boss comes out right in the beginning of the film and decides to tell him, "You're doing a great job and that's just what I told that lady from the court." HIPAA violations much? But that line makes us aware that we need to be on edge about Jerry and something is not quite right about him. And after hearing his boss mention the court system, it's easy to notice that Jerry is pretty socially awkward. He silently stares at people a little bit too long. He interjects into conversations just for the sake of chiming in. He seems to be lacking on all social cues, and he fixates on one lady who works in accounting, Fiona. Really, this movie is like a warning. I know I've been in that uncomfortable situation where you're nice to somebody who doesn't see a lot of kindness in their life, and the next thing you know, they're trying to ask you out and getting belligerent or just won't take no for an answer. Seriously, I let this guy in my animation class borrow a pencil one day, like a measly 50-cent pencil, and within 1 week he was pressuring me to go out with him. With normal people, you can tell them no or try to avoid it until they pick up on the hint, but even telling this guy, "I'm sorry, but I'm married with 2 children already," did not deter him. He still kept trying to pursue me. Luckily, he didn't turn out to be a serial killer, just a pretty lonely guy, but Fiona in this movie was not so lucky. Although the movie does get a little bit muddled here because it kind of implies that Fiona has some fault in her murder because she led Jerry on in some way. So instead of telling Jerry that she was not interested in him, Fiona was too polite and accepted a date knowing she was going to blow it off. Now that was 1,000,000% the wrong thing to do in any type of social setting, but it's also kind of weird because her attitude about Jerry would have probably saved her life if not for the fact that Fiona's car broke down and she needed a ride from a passerby who happened to be Jerry. But Fiona really does have this user type of mentality because as soon as she gets in Jerry's car, she's asking him to buy her dinner, and dinner led to a car wreck which led to Jerry stabbing her in the gut. The question is, was Fiona's death an accident on Jerry's part? I mean, it really looks that way as the movie is playing out, but when you go back and think about it, in all of this wide open forest, it is pretty unbelievable that Jerry just happened to trip and fall holding the knife forward onto Fiona's stomach. And as Mr. Whiskers points out, if Jerry didn't mean to kill her, why did he bring the knife? Fiona's death not being accidental is further backed up when Jerry starts taking his medication. When that happens, we see that his apartment is really dirty, moldy, and cluttered with what looks like empty boxes everywhere. Off his meds, the apartment looks tidy, modest, and pretty nice. So it seems like Jerry's unmedicated brain projects a reality for him that makes him the happiest. I believe that Jerry's delusional issues go way beyond what the movie directly tells us. us. It seemed like Jerry's fixation on Fiona was because she made a little bit of pleasant small talk with him, but for someone with a lot of issues and no human friends, Jerry took those words as a pathway to a happily ever after, and that explains why he later saw Fiona as an angel, because he never cared about Fiona. He cared about this idea of a perfect woman and how she could come in and fix his life and make everything all better. So he took this idea of what perfection meant and he projected it onto Fiona, much like he does with his apartment. So when Fiona ran screaming into the woods, that challenged Jerry's delusions and broke his idea of perfection. Angels don't freak out. Angels understand that you have to kill a deer when it asks you to. That means to Jerry, oh, Fiona's not perfect, so I have to fix that. And Jerry fixed that problem by killing Fiona and then having a lovely time with her head, which that head used more and more crazy British slang as the movie went on, showing us that Jerry knew nothing about Fiona personally, and she was just a stereotype of traits to him. She was never a real person for him. Then Jerry hooks up with Lisa, expecting to kill her, but changing his mind after they sleep together, like you do. It's only polite. So then Jerry starts to think about how great things could be with Lisa, but then Lisa had to ruin that fantasy by showing up at Jerry's apartment and seeing everything with her hateful reality-absorbing eyes. So when Jerry couldn't fix that, and Lisa also tried to run, he killed her too. What other choice would he have? Again, this murder looked like an accident because Jerry shoved her and then she ultimately broke her neck on the bed, except that Jerry was already arguing with Mr. Whiskers, aka himself, that he didn't want to hurt Lisa. So that accident was all in Jerry's head so that he could keep seeing himself as a good guy, or as a good boy, as Bosco would say. But then everybody at work started getting suspicious and Allison came to look for Lisa, and because Jerry just seemed like this sweet, quiet guy, Allison ignored the danger and boom! Head number 3 in the fridge. Now at that point, Jerry's pretty much aware that he's lost the ability to control his impulses. So he does what a lot of us might do and goes to his psychotherapist for help. And then he abducts her, but he doesn't kill her, so points there, I guess? And it's almost painful to see how much this therapist wants Jerry to succeed. She's always smiling so enthusiastically for him, and she believes in Jerry so much that she doesn't report him to the Department of Corrections when he admits over multiple sessions that he's not taking his medication anymore. It was that willingness to work with Jerry that enabled him to avoid his pills. Similarly, when the sheriff pulls over to ask Jerry about his broken windshield, he already knows who Jerry is and talks to him like a child, even ignoring that Jerry's acting really strange. Well, that was because Jerry got institutionalized for killing his mother at the age of 8, which in Jerry's mind was an assisted suicide, but with how the rest of the movie plays out, there's no way to know if that was true, or if Jerry just killed his mom to keep the psychiatric hospital from reclaiming her since she was also mentally ill. And I assumed that the mother had killed the stepfather because the police and the ambulance were showing up to take her away, but instead found Jerry murdering her. So from ages 8 to 30 something, Jerry has been locked up in that town's version of Arkham Asylum, which means everybody knows him. Well, not everybody, not like the factory workers and the accountants and such, but everybody in the legal system knows all about Jerry, and they all really want to see him turn his life around, but unfortunately, giving him that opportunity just let him claim some victims. Jerry is so mentally unwell that the people on the TV even talk directly to him, which is a big sign of schizophrenia, and his life turns into just such a mess that it really makes you wonder who's to blame. Was it CPS for letting a mentally ill woman who had already been institutionalized once to keep raising a child? Was it the court system that allowed Jerry to re-enter society? Because being confined was the only reason he was taking his medications before, with a team of doctors watching his every step. Do we blame the community members who ignored all the warning signs? Or is it Jerry who did commit all the crimes, but who also had the mental state of a child and no one supervising him? It's really hard to not feel sympathetic towards Jerry. He can't help how his mind feels. The world looks like crap when he takes his meds, and he's been all alone basically since he was born. But at the same time, is that sympathy deserved? Jerry's need for perfection also means that he constantly has to be the victim. To him, nothing nothing is his fault and it never will be. It's the gods or it's an accident. All of the negativity or conflict in his life has to be from an outside source. So I wonder how much of his backstory is true and how much of it is slanted into Jerry vision. I don't know, because anytime Jerry faces the slightest amount of stress, he projects that onto talking animals or severed heads. But in my opinion, Jerry does deserve a lot of credit for choosing to die at the end of the movie. He's aware he's messed up, there's no fixing it. He's either going to be in the psych ward forever or he's going to do prison for life. And he has no idea if those voices will ever stop. So instead of hoping that the government will handle him appropriately, Jerry lets go of his other personalities and then lays down to inhale the smoke and die. Of course, then he wakes up in heaven with his parents and his victims, plus Jesus, and they're all ready to sing and dance with Jerry forever. He finally has those friends. I don't know if that's a happy ending or not, but Jerry seems to like where he ended up, so if he did get that final fantasy shred of happiness, I'm happy for him. I might be overthinking it, but that's literally my job. Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Family. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Family and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos like you helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family members.